Okay then guys, so we have the new iPhone 17 Pro Max in silver with us here today. I just did the iPhone Air unboxing, which should be out on the channel depending on when you're watching this. But in this video, we're going to be specifically unboxing the Pro Max. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so let's peel off the tabs, like so. Very satisfying unboxing as always. Okay, so here we have the 17 Pro Max in all of its glory with the brand new redesign. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not hugely digging this new design. Like, this big rectangular thing in the middle isn't suiting me. Like, it just looks like somebody stuck a MagSafe battery pack onto the back of the phone. Like, if we compare the iPhone 15 Pro Max here, you can just see how much cleaner and simpler this phone looks. You know, with the simple all black design. The Apple logo is actually centered here and it's off-centered here. Don't know why Apple have had to do that. Well, actually, I'll tell you why. It's because these new 17 Pros now have an aluminium unibody design. So the sides and the back of this phone are all made from one material. Whereas if you look at the iPhone 15 Pro Max here, you can see we had the edges that were made from titanium, and then the back of the phone was made from this matte glass finish. So it's like you had two different materials sandwiched together, which is why people used to call this a sandwich design. Now obviously the issue you have with an all aluminium design is that you still need glass to support wireless charging and MagSafe on the back. So I think what Apple have had no choice to do is to keep this glass bit here as a separate section. So yes, it does look a little bit weird, and yes, aluminium technically is a bit less premium compared to titanium. You know, it doesn't have that same shiny polished look that the 15 Pro Max here has, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure aluminium is meant to be more thermally efficient, which in theory should allow for better sustained performance. But yeah, let's power this thing on. So you can see Apple are very much prioritizing form over function here. Or sorry, I should say the other way around, function over form in this year's Pro lineup. They've done the opposite with the iPhone Air. So the Air, as I've mentioned in my unboxing video, they've had to make some serious compromises with functionality on the Air in order to achieve its slim design. But with the Pros, they've done the complete opposite. Kind of like what they did with the MacBook Pros a few years ago. You know, it has this very rugged industrial design, which, like I say, I'm personally not a big fan of just yet. I know most people are technically going to be putting a case on top of this, but yeah, I think alongside the iPhone 6 and 6S, this might be my least favorite iPhone design of all time from Apple. Also, you will have noticed that this year I have gone with the silver color when I normally go for black. And that's because Apple, for some reason this year, just forgot to make a black version of the Pro iPhone. Don't know why they didn't make one. I think it might have something to do with the fact that aluminium is a bit less scratch resistant in darker colors. You know, I've seen some pretty bad images online of people scratching the blue iPhone 17 Pro. But yeah, here we are with the silver version this year. You know, it's not a terrible color, still looks fairly classy, even if it's not my own cup of tea. I don't know, it's mainly the contrast between the glass and the aluminium that's bugging me. But yeah, I don't want this whole video to be me rambling about design. So let's talk about what's actually new with this phone. So first up, we have the new cameras. So we have a 48 megapixel telephoto camera on the back compared to just 12 megapixels last year. And Apple are saying that the sensor is bigger. And one of the advantages of having a bigger sensor is that it in theory should let in more light and give you a bit of a shallower depth of field. And it should hopefully result in less noise when shooting in low light environments. Obviously, I don't know what the exact results will be, we'll have to see. I remember I didn't see a huge improvement with the ultra wide camera last year when they upgraded that to 48 megapixels. So I'm going to hold my breath on the telephoto until I've tested that out. It is also worth noting that the main 1x sensor hasn't changed. So that is technically using the same camera as I think the iPhone 14 Pro. Oh, and I should also mention that the front-facing camera has now been upgraded to 18 megapixels compared to 12 before. I'll see in my review how much of a difference that makes, but the big change is that the sensor is now a square design instead of a rectangle, which means you can now capture selfies in portrait and landscape mode with the phone held vertically like this. Another big feature I'm excited about is the new battery. So I think because of the way that Apple have managed to rearrange the internals in this phone, they've managed to fit most of the components like the chip inside of this bumper at the top, which they're calling the plateau, which has allowed them to fit in a larger battery into the main body of the phone. And when you combine that with all of the thermal efficiency improvements of aluminium, I think this phone could be offering some serious multi-day battery life, which is one of the biggest features that I look for personally in a phone. You know, it's the reason why I always go with the Pro Max over the regular Pros. And to be fair, the iPhone 16 Pro Max has been a beast for me over the last year. You know, I don't think that there have been many days where I've had to worry about my battery dying, other than when I'm on holiday and it's really hot outside and your phone begins to overheat and the display begins to dim. You know, we've all been there. But yeah, otherwise I think the 16 Pro Max has been pretty good. And the battery capacity is somehow still on 100% a year later. But yeah, if the 17 Pro Max can offer even better battery life, you know, if it can sustain that peak brightness, I think of 3000 nits it is now compared to 2000 before, you know, if it can sustain that for much longer, thanks to the thermal efficiency improvements, I think that upgrade alone might be enough of a justification to upgrade. Incidentally, I am actually going to be traveling to Southern Europe in a few weeks, where it's going to be quite warm. So I'll actually have a good opportunity to test this new phone and, you know, its thermal efficiency capabilities and the new display as well in the bright sun. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, like I say, I'm going to be testing this phone out heavily over the next month, you know, putting the cameras to the test. I'll be honest, first impressions, I'm not liking the design. I think it's the combination of the design with that weird rectangle in the middle and the fact that there's no space black option that's really upset me this year. But I'll try and keep an open mind for my review. But yeah, let me know in the comments if there's anything in particular that you guys want me to test in my review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe for the next one.